Alrighty, we're live. Hey guys, Engineer Wannabe here. Today with a very special guest. That would be Chris from high school. He was, one of the first people I met when I moved to Canada from Sri Lanka, and he's been there through it all, through the thick and the thin. He was one of my best men at my weddings. At my wedding.
There was only
Every
one.
wedding.
I can confirm.
There was only one. And yeah, he's very close to me, one of my dearest of friends. And he knows very little about watches. We talked about watches a long time ago, about 2 years ago. Yeah, and I've never ever seen him wear a wristwatch. I've always had like a smartwatch or some kind of fitness thing, or there was a time where I didn't wear anything on my wrist. But yeah, usually I had a smartwatch. I was one of the first people to have a smartwatch. I had this old ancient thing called a Sony Live View when it was first getting. I imported it from Japan, and yeah. Anyway, good to have you on, Chris. It's a real
Thank
pleasure, and of course, my good friend Keith as well, who's always here, the OG guest. So yeah, we usually do a wristwatch check before we start. We already saw that Chris had nothing. And yeah, Keith, what's on your wrist? And nice haircut, Keith.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, my first haircut since February of 2020.
Yeah.
That I didn't give myself, I should say. But yeah, today I'm wearing the Oris Aquas Clean Ocean. I saw what you were wearing, Sanjay. We're not watch buddies today.
I know.
I've been wearing this a lot
nice.
more this week.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, Keith and I had the same watch. I had the exact same watch that he does, and I was thinking of putting it on, but it didn't. So I can't.
One day.
We're not watch twins. Yeah, one day we'll sync up. I have the Grand Seiko SBGY 003 on a green deluxe strap Delaro, but yeah, my favorite piece.
I like green.
Yeah, it's really nice. Okay, so
Yeah, it's classy. Sorry, very nice.
yeah, I think it works really well too.
Yeah,
I'm
100%.
green and blue today. But yeah, let's jump into the chat. Say hi to everyone. Let us know what you guys are wearing in the chat. B-Div is first. Good job, man. Desk Diver, good to see you as well. If you ain't first, you're last. Peter, good to see you. Keith, hey man, how's it going?
Oh, hey.
Thanks
Hey,
for joining us.
The joke that never gets old.
Yeah. I was supposed to stop that, right? Bobby's here as well. Hey Rob, thanks for joining us, man. Sam's here. How's it going? Watches with Mukherjee. How's it going, man? Navi timer on the wrist, really cool. Let's see. Justin EDC, thanks for joining us, man. Wrist Ross and Withered Manscape. Lord Chris to our crew. Let's see. Thanks, Rob. Henrik Sandhog. Wristwatch check from Norway. Still wearing the incredible Chrono Tokyo Chronograph 2. Very nice. Rob is wearing the U50. B-Dev is wearing the Tag F1. Desk Diver is wearing the Helio C4th Bronze. Cool. Canadian watch. Yeah. Oh, Matthew Davis is here too. Good to see you, man. I'm off today, so I get to join you live. Zodiac Super Sea Wolf. Is that the new one? Did you happen to get the new teal one, Matthew? Watch Tank Clan is here as well. What's up, man? Thanks for joining us. Oh, and Kevin.
What do you think
Dale.
about that teal one? That's quite the color.
Yeah, I don't know about that. It's too much teal.
I like teal too, but that one's really wild.
Let's see what Chris thinks about it. Let me pull it up.
You gotta have the shoes to match. I know already. I haven't seen it, but you need the shoes to match.
Let's see. I'm pulling it up super quick here. Share screen. This was actually recently launched, so
Yeah, it was this week, I think.
Yeah,
Ooh,
yeah, it's very teal.
I could see that. Yeah, I could see that working with a few different things actually.
Yeah.
I was imagining like almost like a turquoise for some reason, which is a
Okay.
totally different color. So
Yeah. The one Keith has is actually a turquoise watch. It's a beautiful
yeah,
turquoise color.
yeah, I
But
like that one a lot. The Oris, right? It was
yeah,
Oris.
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. This one not really to my taste. I honestly don't really care about pairing things up with clothes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I just wear what I want to wear, but this is just OTT, as they say, as the kids say today. Way too OTT.
I don't even know that one.
I don't know
Over
that one
the top.
either.
Over the top?
Oh,
No?
okay.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, all right. So, Chris, let's just get a bit of background. Do you know anything about watches uh, that you can tell us about? Like,
Have you ever
do
seen
you
a
know?
watch you've really liked? I wonder.
Yeah, I've seen tons of watches that I like for sure. Like Sanjay's always had a bunch of watches, and he's kind of showed me a little bit here and there. Um, but it's usually like there's enough time in between that I kind of like I know like the big brands, you're like Seiko's and stuff like that. Um,
Yeah.
Rolex. I know a few others than that, but um, I really just know the basics, and I've seen a few of those kind of like well, I don't know what you guys would call it. Like I'd call it like a mothership watch, I guess.
Partnership
Then
watch.
just showed me some things over like a globe watch or something like
Oh,
those like $1 million pieces kind of thing. And you showed me another one I remember that had like a whole pneumatic system of like fluids that filled in
oh,
over
okay. Yeah,
time to
Harvey?
show. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I've seen things like that, but honestly, my knowledge is pretty basic. The last
yeah,
time I think I wore a watch was like refereeing soccer when I was 15,
yeah,
so 15 years ago.
yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Have you ever had any interest in getting one? I know you mentioned that you might about 2 years ago when we did speak about it. Um, any thoughts on any progress on getting one or?
No, I'm still in the same boat in that I know I will get a watch, and I know that's like coming up. I'm like also like as I'm moving towards that, like tons of things are happening, new jobs and this and that, and learning French for some reason.
Yeah,
Um, kidding, I love French.
yeah,
But yeah, and then kind of COVID hit, and it's like sitting at home. It would be cool to have a watch, but it's like I'm still in the planning phases. Is
Mm.
what I'm definitely saying. But
yeah,
I've always enjoyed watches for many reasons.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so would you say you know what a movement is in a watch?
Oh, not music. Okay. I would have to take a random stab at that, which I don't know if you want me to or not, but no, I don't.
Okay, yeah. So a movement is basically the mechanism, like the engine of a watch.
Okay.
Um, so I guess there are automatic movements, and then there are quartz movements, and then there are hybrids, um, and a couple of things in between, like electronic watches with tuning forks and things like that. So yeah, a movement is basically the engine of a watch that makes the watch run. So yeah, the reason I ask is just to kind of get the viewers to gauge, how focused you might be in the watch world, which is really not really,
Yeah,
which is
unfortunately.
good. That's no, it's not unfortunate. It's great because we get to talk about it this way,
I'm a
right?
fresh demographic.
Yeah. So today we were kind of going to rationalize the watch hobby to you in some way, shape, or form. It's really not very rational. It's not a rational hobby. So it's it's going to be
I
interesting.
you're coming from somebody that has like the most irrational hobbies. So like music is pretty irrational in many ways. That's my
Yeah,
main thing, and like woodworking and stuff. And the woodworking is a little bit more. Anyways, I'll let you guys continue.
No, that's great. No, so I kind of neglected to share that with everyone because I know you so well. But music is one of your biggest hobbies. You used to collect guitars, right? Or you still do?
Yeah,
You have a
safe
few?
to say. Safe to say.
Yeah.
What kind of music are you into?
It's most. I really like progressive rock, progressive metal. But honestly, I'm kind of all over the place. I listen to rap. I listen to classical music. One of my favorite artists is Joni Mitchell. I'm all over the place.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. We used to have jam sessions in Chris's basement. He had a full kit, guitars, bass, drums. Um, back when
I miss this. What instrument do you play, Sanjay?
I play the drums and the guitar.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Not very well. Chris,
I think
Chris taught
you're
me
out
a
of
lot.
practice, but you were good, man. You were good. You played in high school. Yeah, and actually outside of you had a gig. I remember a little bit after high school too.
Did I?
With Preston.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. So lately, I've only been playing guitar though, because drums are kind of not very feasible. Not. Yeah. I love the guitar way more. But yeah. Anyway, moving on. So yeah, so basically getting a good idea that Chris really doesn't know watches, which is a good thing, and we're going to yeah, have some fun with that. Have some, but let's jump into the chat and say hi to anyone new who might be in here. Jared, thanks for joining us. Kevin from Oz Watch Boys, Sydney, Australia. Kelvin Dale. Sorry, I called you Kevin earlier. Sorry, Kelvin. We already saw this. Bobby, Torrin, and Sam were not able to make it today, so they were busy with other things. So, yeah, they'll be here next week, hopefully. The hot take with JCB. I'm just gonna say hot take. I'm not gonna say oat or hoot or out. Hot take with JCB. Good to see you, man. JCB. All right. Let's jump through real quick. Yeah, this is an interview with a normal person. We are we are not normal. Peter C says it's going to be refreshing. Yes, it will be. Steve, good to see you. Mr. Cassioke. Jason, Design Atelier. Greetings from Canada and Chicago. And of course, the chat jumped a bit there. Scott Waldman, good to see you. Being Jewish, I inherited Rolex from my dad, but I agree with Manscaped and Daily Drive and Invicta Pro Diver. Okay, very cool. Let's see, Young Excellency, amen. Good to see you. And Tippy Cafu. Hey, Tippy. Okay, I was planning to talk about Grand Seiko first, the SBGN 021, 023, I believe, but I kind of forgot about that, and we kind of dove into the main topic. But yeah, let's just keep going. We can talk about Grand Seiko after, because I was thinking about that watch that seems to be egregiously overpriced, but I went back and did a bit of research, and it turned out, it's kind of in line with their pricing scheme. But we'll get into that later. Okay, so switching gears, Keith, do you want to try and rationalize? It doesn't have to be long. Rationalize why you love watches and why it's a great hobby to get into.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's more of a design thing. So you have a design, and if you make something that's too out there, no one's going to be interested in it. If you make something that's too safe, no one's going to be interested in it. And to make so you're working in these parameters, and what style are you going to go with? what materials are going to go with, what movement are you going to go with to make something that's interesting for people. So I think if you're into design, which honestly, for the most part, I'm not, but for some reason, watches kind of grab me. It's just cool to see what people can do in the parameters that they're given. And when you get into brands like, like Sanjay's into Grand Seiko and with textured dials and, creating a brand new style of movement, I think it's just, I don't know, that kind of stuff. That's what appeals to me. I don't know if that's a good answer, but
That was a great answer, actually. If I could add into that, though, like
Yeah.
without context, like I could almost think that you're talking about music. It's like if you go too out there, and like people will be kind of like, oh my god, right? But if you're just playing too safe and too like what's already been done, then kind of like people are kind of not interested either. You have to go with what people are comfortable with a little bit, but also kind of add some stuff that's a little new and keeps it exciting. So it's actually kind of really cool. And yeah, people have been making watches for hundreds and hundreds of years, right? So it's kind of it's cool to imagine how they might be adding on to all of that, for sure.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Watches actually
yeah,
are
that's one thing I
kind of
didn't mention is the history.
Yeah. The wristwatch is actually kind of recent, I should say. The pocket watch they've been making for hundreds of years. The wristwatch is actually used to be an accessory for the ladies. It used to be a ladies' thing to wear a wristwatch. But then in the First World War, during trench warfare, they used to weld on lugs to pocket watches so that they could put a strap of fabric through it and tie it onto their wrist so that they could, hold their weapon and still look at the time. And then Rolex actually tried to decide to pull it in and make it a bit more popular. So Rolex was kind of trailblazing there. They got basically brand ambassadors for that time, the cool people, and got them to wear those watches as a men's thing, men's fashion thing, and yeah, over time it became the thing to do. Pocket watches became less relevant, and wristwatches um, became the permeating thing. Um, so yeah, I guess for me to rationalize wristwatches, the watch hobby for me would be it's from first it was a thing about mechanics and engineering. So basically the first thing that really grabbed me was the fact that you can tell time in an accurate and reliable way, fairly accurate and reliable way, using gears, springs, levers, and all these different, almost a steampunk thing. The fact that you can actually keep time with a spring was mind blowing to me when I first learned about it. I was looking to get out of tech basically because it was becoming an obsession, and I was trying to cut myself off of tech. So I was cutting myself off of smartwatches, and I thought, I'm just going to buy a good Seiko. I'm going to call it quits. And that was a whole other rabbit hole that led to a different obsession. But but yeah, so I got into watches because I wanted something mechanical, something that would last, as opposed to tech, which gets obsolete within 6 months, 4 months. um, and uh, and yeah, so I got that Seiko that I wanted, and started to research more and more, and then it became a thing more like it's the only art that I really care about. It became this, a thing that, in the grand scheme of things, something that will outlive us, but is also beautiful. So that's what drew me to Grand Seiko, because they have really beautiful dials, different textures and patterns that is inspired by nature for the most part, or they try to make it inspired by nature, or they cook up a story that makes it sound like it's nature inspired. But but yeah, it becomes this expression of art, and I really, not to be, a crude or anything. I don't generally care about art, but when you put when you put mechanics and this beauty together, it just floored me, and I fell down the rabbit hole of Grand Seiko, first Seiko, then Grand Seiko, and Omega. I think is the next closest thing to that. So those are my two favorite watch brands, Seiko and Omega.
Very cool.
Yeah. I had a presentation ready, which I still have a presentation ready. It's just giving me a bit of trouble, giving me a bit of grief here.
Well, yeah, one thing you brought up, Sanjay, that Peter C brought up in the comments, which is something I didn't think about when I was talking, is he says you don't have to look at your phone. And I think that is a big draw. Like when me and my wife will go out somewhere, I'll leave my phone at home, and I still have ability to, the way to tell the time, and I could disconnect for a while with something that's not digital at all. That's something that's mechanical, and I really like that aspect of it as well, because I'm way too addicted to my phone. But at least I'm willing to admit it. I think pretty much everyone is, but no
I'm
one
same.
wants to admit it.
That's
Yeah.
actually that's something that makes a lot of sense to me for sure. Because yeah, like half the time it's like you pull out your phone to check the time, and it's like, oh, okay, I got a message here. It's like, oh, I got to do this real quick, and then you put your phone back in your pocket. You're like, right, you lost 5 minutes. You don't know
Right,
what the time
exactly,
is.
yeah.
Yeah. See, for me, the opposite actually happened, because now I'm kind of involved in the watch community, right? So I have these Instagram posts with people reaching out to me asking questions, and I have, like, I'm kind of keeping up with Instagram. Yeah, Chris is probably a little shocked because I said I never install Instagram ever. I was like, anti Instagram when it first came out, but yeah, so now I have people reaching out to me, and I want to answer those questions. On YouTube there are people who comment, and I generally don't want to leave a comment unanswered. So yeah, so now I'm always on my phone because I'm responding, texting whenever I get a moment. And I got to learn how to dial that back a bit.
I must say, Sanjay, I do not know how you know so many people in the watch world. Even when I notice when you're reading off the names, you know everyone's first name, and so I don't know how you keep track of everyone, but it's impressive.
Oh, thanks. I don't know. I don't know. It's reference numbers and names. I can remember reference numbers and names. But yeah, let's see what the guys in the chat are saying. Kevin S. I don't know if I said hi to you, man. Good to see you. Kevin actually sent me a really beautiful Grand Seiko water bottle, and I've been using it every day. So it's really nice of him. Thanks, man.
Nice.
Yeah, I thought I had it here, but I don't.
When
Jared
I
saying,
bought my
when do
Oris,
we
they're
get?
like, "Hey, do you want a hat?" Oh, sorry. When I bought my Oris, they're like, "Do you want a hat?" I'm like, "No, you can keep it." No, thanks.
I actually, yeah, they've given me a hat with my Oris purchases, and I have a shelf with a row of hats, like 3 Oris hats, a couple of Tudor hats. It's just,
Do you get use out of them?
No, I don't wear
Oh.
hats. So. I should give them away. That should be something I do on the channel.
Well, I don't know if you noticed, but I don't know if it's COVID or whatnot, but I in brand new need of a hat. So I mean,
Hey, yeah, I'll send you one. Tudor or Oris, Chris? Which would you like?
I honestly I wouldn't even know enough to answer that.
Well, hopefully we'll educate you a little bit here.
Excellent.
Okay, so yeah, moving on from that, I wanted to showcase a couple of signature watches. So I tried to make these kind of as similar as possible. So we've got a diver's watch, a pilot's watch, a racing watch, or a chronograph, and a dress watch. And I wanted to kind of see which one you would prefer out of all of them. So they're all black dials. They are as close in design as possible while being different. The basically the difference in characteristics that change their label. So let me switch uh, back to this thing here. So here we have a dive watch. As you can see, it's not the greatest picture. This was kind of a quick and dirty presentation thing that I put out, but uh, you have a in a dive watch, you have a countdown or a countdown bezel. So that's the bezel that you see on top there. It's also the bezel that Keith has on his watch. It's Keith has a dive watch on right now. Um, so what you do with this is that you would set the pip. So there's a triangle at top on the top, and you would set it to the minute hand, and then you have a 60-minute counter from that point. Basically, you would see the bezel would realign, and you would have a 60-minute counter. It can only turn counterclockwise. So if you're on a dive and you bump it against something, you'll only shorten your dive. You won't extend it, and run the risk of running out of air. So this is basically a dive watch. This is the Rolex Submariner, the newest one. Reference number eludes me on this guy because I'm not too interested in it. But this is the venerable Rolex Submariner. Next up is the venerable Speedmaster. This is the Omega Speedmaster. It's a racing watch that became kind of a pilot's watch. It's the first watch worn on the moon. So this is a watch that is NASA qualified to be worn on the moon in spacewalks and stuff like that. It's or there's a version of it that can be worn on the moon. It is a chronograph, so it has those 3 registers that you can see here. One is a running seconds counter, so that you know that the watch is working, and one is a minute counter, and one is an hour counter. So this chronograph hand, or the seconds hand that you would see in a normal watch, doesn't actually move, generally speaking, until you press the chronograph button. So it's a stopwatch. And this is the signature chronograph. It's considered a racing watch, but it could be considered a pilot's watch since it works for NASA. But we're going to say it's a racing watch. We're going to say it's a chronograph. Next up is the IWC Mark 18. This is the quintessential pilot's watch. Very legible. It has to be very legible. It generally has a very big crown so that you can operate it while wearing gloves. Basically, this is a bare bones watch that is capable of decompression, sudden decompression. And it can be worn high altitudes, low altitudes. And the main point is that it's very legible and very easily maneuverable. You can set the time really quick. And last but not least, we have a dress watch. This is the quintessential dress watch. It is a Patek Philippe Calatrava. I forget the reference number again. I think it's 5570G or something like that. Very minimal. Generally, a dress watch wouldn't even have a seconds hand, so it would be a 2-hander. The purest of dress watches that you wear with the tux. This one has a hunter case back, which means that you can. It's generally a closed case back, but you can open it to take a look at the movement because it's been beautifully decorated. It has the Geneva seal. Patek Philippe seal. It used to have the Geneva seal. There's a lot of man hours that go into this watch, but you wouldn't think it because it's very simple.
Looks pretty complicated.
It's not really. That's a funny thing. The only complication on this watch is the date. So
Right.
Every feature that's on a watch is called a complication. So the only complication here is the date. Of course the mechanism is really complicated. How you get that thing to keep time, and also wind itself. It's an automatic watch, so that
Awesome.
rotor, that
Yeah.
gold rotor, it'll wind itself. You don't have to manually crank it.
Just by so like you have to keep movement in it, or
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
By your motion,
Awesome.
you keep it going indefinitely,
Yeah.
which is really cool. But yeah, so just to gauge your interest, out of the 4 that I showed you, the dive watch, the the chronograph or the racing watch, the pilot's watch, and the dress watch, which would you be inclined to to lean towards?
Just looking at like kind of base, like go through each of those, I think the things that appeal to me the most personally
Yeah.
are probably like the thinness of the pilot watch. Did I misunderstand? I think that was like you said, it was supposed to be really thin. Is that
Not necessarily. No, it doesn't
no?
have to be thin. It is. This one is thin, um, but this would be thinner.
Okay, I
I,
see. I see.
yeah, this is like 9.7 millimeters, if I'm not mistaken,
Wow,
and it has this mechanism, this Hunter case back, which
which
would
would
add
add.
some thickness, which is
Yeah,
really
definitely.
impressive. But um, yeah, I
But
can. It's expensive. This is egregiously expensive.
yeah, I believe that. I believe that. But yeah, to be honest, I like the simplicity of those last two.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I think for me personally, all those extra bells and whistles would probably go unused.
yeah.
Yeah.
Generally, for most people, the bells and whistles go unused. Even for watch enthusiasts, not a lot of people would even use the chronograph. I know a lot of people would, but a lot
Really
don't.
cool. Still
Um,
really cool.
the
Yeah, I was gonna
cool
say
thing about this one,
I'm wearing a dive watch. I don't even like swimming really. I don't even like going in a swimming pool.
yeah.
But
So
it's
in
still
the
cool to
end,
have that extra little timer. It's that's pretty cool to have.
Yeah, I have
yeah,
used that.
Yeah, like if you even have something in the microwave, you're gonna go across the house. Like I don't know. I I could see
yeah.
that being used.
But the cool thing about this is that it was worn on the moon. I don't
Yeah,
know, would that carry any weight
that's awesome.
to you?
For
Like,
me,
yeah,
I think it's cool, but I don't know. I'm a more of a quiet person, so I wouldn't like go about being like, hey, like this watch right here. Like, I that's not for me. I would want something that looks discreet. That's the direction I would probably go personally.
yeah,
But that is an awesome detail. It is really, really cool
yeah, yeah,
because I can only imagine the amount of detail they would look into with something like that, at NASA.
yeah. The testing is ridiculous, and the only watch that passed was the at the time. So in the 50s, I believe, the only watch that did pass was the Omega Speedmaster. So
Wow.
um, this is another first, one of the first. It was between this and another watch named the Blancpain 50 Fathoms. They were the very first dive watches. So this has a bit of heritage in it too. And generally in the watch enthusiast community, it's not about showing off about the heritage. You wouldn't go around saying, hey, this is the first
Right.
watch went on the moon.
Right.
It's kind of like an inside thing, like
Yeah.
the Speedy is so cool because it was one on the moon.
Yeah, it would
And
definitely be more just like knowing that it has that credential, I guess, and that it's built to a certain quality. Yeah, I can
yeah,
understand that.
yeah, and the movement, yeah, is like is quite bulletproof. Um, but yeah, so this is a pretty poor picture. Dan mentioned that in the chat. I picked the worst sub picture, but it's a beautiful watch. But it does have a bit of cachet and stigma at the same time. Cachet because it's a Rolex, stigma because it's a Rolex. Um, it's kind of a look at me watch, but at the same time, a lot of people in the watch enthusiast community don't buy it because of that. Generally, because of the provenance that the watch has. Being the one of the first dive watches, and being built like a tank. So
Yeah,
usually, when
nice.
you get up in price, um, watches don't tend to be built like tanks. They become more delicate.
Oh,
Rolex is while it's not the most expensive out in the market,
yeah,
Rolex is an exception to that rule. They are generally, built pretty tough. So yeah, so you were saying you would probably pick the Calatrava or the IWC.
yeah. I mean, the Calatrava, I think you mentioned, is like on the really, really super, super expensive side.
Yeah.
Like I guess I'm kind of leaning towards the simplicity of it rather than like kind of anything like that. I think for me, considering a watch, it's a lot like considering my cell phone. Like I'll go for a cheap cell phone, and if not, then it'll have Gorilla Glass. Like I, I work with my hands. I'm in the trades or whatever. I'm working in ceilings and doing all these things. I have like scars all over my, well, sorry, not scars, but scrapes in my hand and my arms from working in ceilings and stuff. So, I wouldn't want something that I'd be too nervous about.
Yeah.
But I do like the simplicity of those a lot.
Yeah. And there are definitely alternatives. It was just the kind of the icon that I wanted to pick.
Mm-hmm.
The signature watch. So there's a model from Seiko which is very inexpensive called the SARB 033, which looks very similar to this piece here, at a fraction of the price, because this in Canadian dollars would be around $40,000. Um, while the SARB is around 500 if it hasn't gone up in price already, because the SARB is kind of creeping up in price as well.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Yeah. The Rolex has a supply and demand issue, so their prices are really high. If you try to buy it aftermarket, or sorry, in the pre-owned market, they actually go for more than their retail value. The retail value in Canadian dollars is around 9,500 on the Submariner, but it goes for a little bit more than that, pre-owned.
Mm-hmm.
The Speedmaster is around 9,700. This is the one with the sapphire crystal, and the newest version with the newest movement. It's around 9,700, but generally you'll get a discount, which you won't with a Rolex. And the IWC, I think, is around the $7,000 mark in Canadian. So really, really expensive, but that kind of primes you for the next segment that we have. Um, but let's hit the chat real quick. Kevin says he's glad I'm enjoying the GS bottle. I really am. It's a very thoughtful gift, man. Thanks so much. Dan needs a Tudor hat. We will. I'll get it out to you. Hat giveaway at 3K subs. Hey, that's a good point. I should do that. Bobby, Watch Medicine, joined in. Hey man, thanks for joining us. Sorry we couldn't have you. He just had a 24-hour shift, so he'd normally join us here, but he probably is wiped. Anson, good to see you. The Oris mug is really small. Wish they made it bigger. I have an Oris mug right there. It's like this big. It's really small. It's more decorative than useful. Busy with other things. All right. Let's see.
Dan I didn't mean to jump forward, but I'll let you go.
No. Go ahead.
I was going to say that Dan and Bobby suggested to show Chris a Daniel Wellington to see what he thought of it, because it sounds like.
Yes. Let me do that actually.
Because it sounds like what he's describing.
Oh, okay. Let me pull that up. Okay, share screen.
Now that I think about it, I should have pulled it up. Well, I saw it.
Here, let me just share my entire screen. I get all messed up when I try to just share the tab. But yeah, so what do you think of this guy?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah?
Because it sounds like what he's describing, which Bobby was saying that's why these are sold in the millions, because people tend to like the simple
Oh,
more simple
sorry.
dials. Now, obviously, like watch enthusiasts aren't into this brand,
Yeah.
Makes sense.
because it's just overpriced for what it is.
Mm.
But I feel like when someone's new to watches, they tend to gravitate towards the simple designs like that.
For me,
Yeah.
like I like that, and I like the design and the approach. What I would worry about with that is just again, like working. It seems like it has a lot of hard edges that would catch on things. I would want something, and this is probably going to make everyone cringe and chat and whatnot, but something that things would brush over rather than.
No, that's perfectly valid. Like
Yeah.
the pilot watch, that would definitely do that because it's got the rounded edges. So
So is
if
that
you take a blow, it would glance over it.
so is
Yeah.
that actually like a kind of a design, kind of like a, I don't know, something that's unique to pilot watches? That's kind of uh,
No,
rounded, or
you generally say for field watches, pilot watches, and tool watches. I didn't throw up a field watch there,
interesting. Cool.
but basically watches designed to do something rough. So
Yeah.
dive watches, the Submariner kind of has that ceramic bezel. So the bezel on this Submariner is ceramic. So chances of it even getting a scratch is very remote.
Awesome.
Shattering is pretty small. You'd have to really hit your watch hard, and ceramic will shatter. But
Yeah.
you'd have other problems if you hit your watch that hard too.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
but yeah, so the Submariner or generally any dive watch should be able to take a blow and glance it over. There are watches that get pretty thick. I know our watch, Keith, is kind of on the thicker side. I have 14
Yeah,
millimeters.
definitely.
But there are a lot of watches that generally are thin, so they'd avoid the bash altogether. So the thinner the better. So yeah, like you mentioned, Chris, that's
Even 14 millimeters is pretty small, pretty thin though, I imagine.
It sounds like it, but when you're wearing it, it doesn't feel like it.
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah. Yeah,
Huh.
so generally a thin watch would be, I'd say 11 and under.
Okay.
But a good size would be 12, 11, 12.
Okay.
Yeah, so just to say why the Daniel Wellington is looked down upon is they charge you around $200 for
Yeah.
this watch that has a plastic quartz movement. And it's a disposable watch that's
It's
dressed
cheaply
up
made.
as a watch that will last you a lifetime. So it's a
Mm.
watch that you throw away, but they make you think that it's something that's valuable and something
Right.
that will last. And it kind of grabs the the crowd that's at the mall,
Yeah,
kind of
just like getting
to
in the door
grab a
and like,
watch. This one
yeah,
looks good. It looks like it'll last me a while, but
yeah.
in generally speaking, they don't. And if you were to go on, a lot of people say this, but if you were to go on AliExpress, whether they ripped off Daniel Wellington or Daniel Wellington bought a metric ton of them from AliExpress and then slapped a $200 premium, it's up for debate. But generally, you can get them very, very inexpensively if you were to go there. Uh, so to AliExpress and Alibaba and places like that. So that's why that brand is generally derided. It's not the smart buy.
Yeah.
Or
No, that
yeah,
makes sense.
it's
It's
worth
just kind of,
$5, but they sell it for 200.
I don't like that. Is it typically like, so I'm sorry, I'm not even gonna get the name of this. Sorry. The mechanism within the watch that would keep the time, the spring, right? The spring mechanism, the
Yeah,
movement.
yeah.
Do those start at a certain price range? It's got to be more
There are
expensive to.
disposable mechanical movements. So Seiko makes a lot of
Interesting.
those. Generally, uh, in the $80 price point. So you can actually get them for $80.
Right.
That's kind of getting extinct. Like Seiko's moving up their
Yeah.
prices. So let's say for $150, you can generally get a disposable mechanical movement. So you'll get to enjoy the idiosyncrasies and the weirdness of having one of those mechanical movements. It's not going to be accurate. It's it might be. You might win the lottery, basically, in the movement category. But it's not gonna have things that you would think is basic. Like if you've ever used a watch, if you pull the crown out, it would stop the seconds. That's been kind of normal for anyone who grew up with quartz. Um, but these older movements, they don't. The seconds keep going.
Right.
So you kind of have to synchronize, kind of have to spin back the crown to kind of stick the seconds hand if you need to synchronize the watch. So basically, it's very bare bones.
Mhm.
But you can get them for $80, 80, 100, 120. And that's why the Daniel Wellington is such a horrible value proposition. And
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
it's borderline scamming, right?
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That thing is worthless. You throw it in the bin. Well, this thing will actually keep going for decades.
Mhm.
The one that you buy for $80.
Yeah, I would definitely want to invest in something that isn't designed to be thrown out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Scott Walden was saying, my grandfather was very frugal. He escaped Germany alone. My grandmother was melted down. He bought a Rolex after his first two American years. It became my dad's in 1977, 5 years ago. Mine. Wow, that's quite a
Wow.
story.
It's an
Congrats.
heirloom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
heirloom piece.
Yeah.
Mr. Cassioc was saying dress watch shouldn't even have a date, but I think we allow ourselves that now. Yeah, and secondhand is nice. Simple dress watches are generally thinner than simple pilot watches. Yeah. Peter's saying, I want it simple. That's what he says now.
I'm like dipping my foot in the water, and you guys are trying to.
Oh, we got a lot of chat things in the chat going. Show him a better picture of a diver. That's a good point. I should do that. Let's do that real quick. I'm gonna be faster at this time. So this is a dive watch. Generally, this is the picture I should have copied, with the ceramic bezel, and the luminous hours, and yeah, it's a pretty slender, pretty nice watch. The Submariners, I should say.
So when you say luminous, like you're definitely talking about like any of the digits, any of like the hands and stuff. So you'd be able to see it while you're diving down with not much vision, right?
Yeah. So these indices are filled with luminous paint.
Awesome.
That would glow in the dark, basically. So they would take a charge. Back in the day, they used to have radioactive paint, so like radium, tritium, and that would emit light out of its own decay, so decaying radioactive particles. And they don't do that anymore because of radiation. Cancer is a cancer.
Yeah. The radium thing went pretty badly, I remember.
Yeah. Rolex has some pretty legendary luminous paint. They call it chromalite. Seiko has probably equally, if not more, legendary paint named Lumibright. But they're all marketing terms. So
for like similar things, I guess, or like the paints.
Yeah. Similar compounds, I would guess. They all work the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess so that function would be pretty specific to diving watches because of.
No.
Oh,
No.
Okay. Because that's definitely a pretty. I would imagine that would be really useful for me.
Yes. Yeah. Generally, dress watches wouldn't have that, but pilots' watches tend to have luminous paint. Field watches, anything sporty, would have luminous paint on it. Grand Seiko has a lot of sporty watches. They tend to cut the steel of the hands and the markers in gem-like ways, so that light bounces off it in really crazy ways. So like if I were to look at this in the dark, I just move it back and forth a little, and it would catch any little light, and I'd still be able to tell the time. That's not ideal, but in a pinch, it does the
Yeah,
job.
it's a
Well,
cool little detail.
yeah,
It's attention to detail, really. Yeah,
yeah.
that's neat.
Um, BDev was saying you need a quartz watch. Quartz is a good place to start. Quartz is more like a one and done though. You got to start mechanical and then work your way back into quartz because quartz has a bad rap. Basically, quartz is considered disposable and garbage, but there is really good quartz watches. Um, like the Breitling Aerospace, Grand Seiko's 9F. Um, Longines has some really good quartz timepieces as well. Let's see. Chaz, thanks for joining us, man. Quite a bit behind here. Blancpain and Zodiac were the first dive watches beating Rolex to market. Okay, there you go. Blancpain was first. Habring 2 would be the best simplicity watch. G-Shock should be the perfect watch for Chris. It's true. A G-Shock generally will take a beating. It's made out of thermoplastic resin, I believe. So, it'll take any bash without any problems. BDev says show him a G-Shock.
Yeah, a lot of G-Shock comments.
Yeah. DW5600. I have a GWB 5600 that I generally wear when I go under the car. So yeah, G-Shock is a great work watch, and then you need like an evening watch to lounge and
I'm always lounging.
Yeah. Tegamenting is a hardening process. So Zinn, there's a company called Zinn that does a surface hardening process on steel. So they call it tegamenting. There's another company called Damasco that does ice hardening. And they make their steel quite a bit harder than, like 3 or 4 times harder than it normally is. So chances of scratching them are really small.
Yeah.
Even if you beat it, beat the devil out of it, as Bob Ross would say.
Cool.
I'm a huge Bob Ross fan. I love Bob Ross.
Chris actually dressed up as Bob Ross, didn't
I
you?
did.
So did I for Halloween.
Yeah, same. Yeah, that one's a big hit.
Yeah. Peter was saying you need a G-Shock for work and a Sarb for every day. The Sarb was what I mentioned. That looks a lot like that Calatrava.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's a lot of great comments here, guys. I'm gonna skip through it because we got to get to our next segment before we run out of time. Okay, so the next part was going to be a bit of a game. It's kind of a cliche. I was telling the guys, Chris and Keith, before we started. Kind of a cliche. A lot of people do it. Guess how much this costs, and we'll see. How you got it right or wrong. But it's a cliche for a reason because it's a lot of fun. So we're gonna do that right here. Oh well, I forgot about this part. Let's do this real quick. I was going to ask you, Chris, what do you think looks best? A steel bracelet, leather strap, or a fabric strap? What would you pick between here?
I actually I like the steel personally.
Yeah.
I like to, for example, on the watch that you showed at the beginning, that you're wearing right now, Sanjay, you have the green leather.
Yeah.
I do really like that actually as well.
Yeah.
But I do tend to lean towards kind of more of a steel band.
Yeah. Would you consider a steel band or bracelet dressier than a leather strap?
I probably would.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably would.
That's funny because I wasn't even showing it to you guys. It's funny because when I got into the hobby, I always thought the steel bracelet was the dressy option. Like, so with the suit, you would wear steel,
Mm-hmm.
But when you were casually lounging, you'd actually switch to leather. It
Mm.
turns out it was the opposite. Leather was the dressier option. So
Interesting.
yeah, so a nice calf leather or a nice alligator leather is what is considered to be the dressier option, the one you would put on a dress watch with your suit. Um, but I actually, same as you, thought the bracelet was the dressy the dressier one because it was a bit more flashy.
Mm.
That was my impression of steel.
That's interesting. Is that something that's like changed over time?
I think
Um,
so.
yeah.
I think it's because of things like James Bond and
Mm.
you know how James Bond wears his steel watch, all steel, with his tuxedo, right, with his suit,
Yeah.
and because of that, you see more people doing that. And so when I was growing up, all I saw was it with suits. All I saw was bracelets. So I
Mm.
thought that was how it was supposed to be. So much so that when I was looking to buy a watch, I would go into the store and they say, I do not want a bracelet. I want it to be on a leather strap because I want to wear it casually.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that was you know, kind of blew my mind when it was flipped around on me.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Huh.
Yeah. How about you, Keith? Did you have that experience at all, or did you always think leather was a dressy option?
I guess I don't know. I don't know. I got into watches because I was into like style and you know, people who are into that stuff always say wear like a white face watch with a leather band instead of steel. So that's kind of where I learned that it was more dressy, but I would have never questioned someone wearing a steel bracelet dressing up. And people still do it and it could look great, wearing a Rolex Datejust or something like that. Or really any no one would question you wearing a steel watch. So I think either one works. But yeah, it's kind of weird that. And there's casual leather and um, dressy leather. So really, each could go either way.
Yeah.
Would that be like the stitching on it that makes it more fancy or not? Or
No, not necessarily. There are casual leathers, so like a brown leather with white contrasting stitching is generally known as like a casual leather because it looks like dive equipment from say the 50s and 60s, right? They used to have leather equipment back then for going diving. But generally, an exotic leather like alligator or crocodile is considered dressy,
mm,
and calf generally is dressy as well. Depending
mm,
on, yeah, I guess stitching does play a part. If you see like a very minimal stitching, really high contrast stitching, then it makes it a bit more casual. While
mm.
Yeah, like I
while
would
the
say the
stitching,
strap that you're wearing right now, the white stitching on it makes it look a little more casual.
yeah, yeah, you're right.
Mm. Interesting.
Yeah, and Dan makes a good point here because there really are no rules. People
Mm.
wear an Apple Watch and a G-Shock to weddings, and I tend to agree. Like I
Yeah,
said before, I wear what I want to wear, because I feel like wearing it that day, and I really couldn't care less about matching it with my shoes and belt
yeah,
and things like that, or even the
yeah,
color of my shirt. This, I guess it kind of goes, but who cares? Just wear it.
agreed, agreed.
All right, so that small segment out of the way, let's get to that game we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm gonna go through these watches as quick as possible. Keith, if you want to interject, let me know, um,
Okay,
and I will stop because I can't see you guys right now. I'm looking at the screen here.
this one's up my
This
alley.
yeah, this is known as the Monta Noble. So it's considered an everyday watch.
Mm-hmm.
Go anywhere, do anything watch. So dressy to sporty. You can do whatever you want with it. Really nice. This dial is called a fume dial. Really nice fume or degradé dial, fading to black toward the outside. And yeah, comes with a steel bracelet. Moving on. This is the Breitling Premier B01. Very nice green, forest green dial. It's a chronograph, mechanical chronograph. Has the B01 movement and a beautiful quilted leather strap.
Yeah.
This is the Seagull 1963, another chronograph. Very nice blue hands. So generally, when you see this, they can either be chemically blued or thermally blued, and this blue color is indicative of thermally blued hands. This may or may not be thermally blued, but it is. If you see that shade of blue, it's generally a very um, premium thing to do because it takes time to thermally blue hands and screws to
So
look right,
like heating the steel to get it
to change color,
interesting.
and it has to be to a very specific temperature,
Yeah.
and it needs to be cooled correctly, or it's going to
Okay.
have evenly and correctly, or it's going to have weird shades and different textures. I don't know, Chris, since you're somewhat into cars as well, you see exhausts with different, like a blue and an orange, and those different shades of colors.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically because of heat. If it's done right, people usually do that to make it look good. But if it happens naturally, it's because of the heat that's coming out of the tailpipe.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh.
This is Seiko SPB 159. It's also known as the Baby Alpinist or the No Compass Alpinist. It's an explorer's watch or a field watch. Very water resistant and has very good luminous paint as well. Very nice textured dial. It's like a pebbly, grainy texture in there, and one of my favorites. This is a Vacheron Constantin Overseas. This is the 37 millimeter model. It has as an integrated bracelet, so there's no general lug shape here, or the lug shape that you're used to. This is integrated into the case to have a seamless look. But when you purchase one of these, you usually get a rubber and a leather strap with it. So really good value. Very nice blue dial. This is my preferred overseas model with the small seconds and the smaller diameter. Some people call it the ladies version, but I prefer
Do
that.
they call it the ladies' version?
I'm not sure actually.
Okay.
I'll have to look into that.
Curious.
This is the Timex Marlin. It's a 40 millimeter burgundy watch with a burgundy leather strap. Has a Miyota movement and a display case back, which I don't have a picture of, but you can see the back. On most of these watches, you can see the back, so you can see the movement and all the mechanical parts doing its thing. The gears and the springs and the levers. This is a Baltic Aquascaf, a dive watch. Has a beautiful beads of rice bracelet.
Oh,
And very striking, a very very nice looking piece. I believe the bezel here is capped with sapphire, so it's got a sapphire crystal on the bezel.
wow.
And I would be foolish to not add this Grand Seiko. So this is a Grand Seiko Snowflake. It's made out of titanium, so it's very light. It's got that thermally blued seconds hand, may or may not be thermally blued. And it's got this dial, which is a very complicated dial. So if you look pretty closely, you'll see that it has. It's called the snowflake for a reason because it looks like a field that's been snowed on and the wind's been blowing on it for a while, and it has a very serene dial texture and pattern to it. It's really beautiful in person. And I think
I like that one.
Yep. So we've got all the watches here. Let me know which one you'd like me to move to first place, as in the least expensive.
Okay. So which one's the cheapest?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll go in ascending order.
Mm-hmm.
So we got the Monta, the Breitling, the Seagull, the Seiko, the Vacheron Constantin, Timex, Baltic, and Grand Seiko.
That's difficult.
It's difficult.
I think the first one's going to be the cheapest. Is
This
my
one?
guess.
The
Yeah.
month? Okay.
Yeah.
And next.
Um.
I probably shouldn't have put this many watches in.
I was thinking
No,
the same
no.
thing. It's hard to memorize.
Yeah.
Yeah, the names are you're gonna get descriptions instead of names. I think I
Yeah.
got 3 of the names, maybe.
Yeah.
But I feel like it looks really nice, but I could imagine it being cheaper. The brown one, it's one of my favorites,
Yeah.
but to me it looks like that could be achieved relatively cheaply.
Okay.
I don't know, but then like again the classy I think leather band
Yeah.
without the stitching, maybe it actually is really expensive. Because like the dome actually looks really really nice and really well executed. But anyways, that's what I'm gonna go with.
Okay.
Oh yeah, actually up close. Anyways, and then I'm gonna go with the Seiko. I think the Seiko in the middle was that. Yeah, that's the one.
All right.
So I think that's my next choice.
Okay.
Um,
That you really like that one too, huh?
yeah,
I
I like
heard.
that one a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, the use of color there and how the color bounces off certain parts but not other parts.
Yeah.
It's really nice. Um, hmm. That's where it gets complicated. So I'm gonna say the something Constantine would be next.
Vacheron
Constantine.
Constantin.
Sorry, one more time.
Vacheron Constantin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um, and then I'm gonna go with the I think it was a pilot watch, the green one,
Yep. Breitling.
Breitling. Um,
Pull it up for you.
Breitling. Yeah, that one's really really nice. But the stitching on that is really cool.
Mhm.
Moving forward, I feel like the Grand Seiko's the most expensive for some reason.
Yeah.
But at
Got,
the same time, what was it? The one beside it with the rice bead, that's like flashy as hell.
yeah.
So, I don't know if so I'm gonna go with the one with the 2 blue hands,
All right.
and then I'll go with the Grand Seiko, and then the other one.
Then the Baltic.
I'm really
All
curious to
right.
see how this is gonna turn out. It's gonna be
Yeah.
like completely inversed or something.
I hope I can remember all the prices. It's been a while, but let's go with Keith. Keith.
Oh, okay. I'm putting them in order too.
Yep.
You know, it's hard for me to see. What's the second one?
There's a Breitling, the Breitling
Oh,
Premier.
okay. So I'll go Seagull. No, I'll go Timex, then Seagull. This is really
Timex.
testing me here.
Yeah. Seagull.
Seiko,
Seiko.
Baltic. Those could go either way. I feel like.
Baltic.
Manta.
Monta.
I would go Breitling, then Grand Seiko. I'm not too into Breitling, so I don't know how they price their watches.
That's all right.
And then the VC.
Then the VC.
Baltic
All right.
Seiko.
Did I make that the cheapest? Oops.
Well, you had the VC in the middle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's get to the results. And I would love to see what the chat's saying right now. So here it is. So cheapest would be
Oh wow.
Seagull 1963. You wouldn't think it. The Seagull 1963 is it's really beautiful. It comes with the sapphire sandwich, and if you see the case back, you'd think this would cost at least $1,000, but it's actually around $150 Canadian.
150. Okay.
We're going Canadian here. So Seagull is number 1. Timex is number 2. This is only $300 Canadian.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a really good watch. Seiko is number 3. There's a bit of a jump here at $900, but you can generally get a discount here too. Number 4 is the Baltic. If I'm not mistaken, it's around 1,200 Canadian.
Wow.
So
I think, yeah, I don't know Canadian, but I think that's the GMT that's worth that. At least for American dollars. I could be off.
Well, this is a new one. And I think with the Visa Rice bracelet, it's around €760, which translated to around 1150 Canadian. So.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
I think. But yeah, it's definitely under the Monta. The Monta here is approximately 2,000 Canadian. And we have the Grand Seiko, which is a big jump here, around 7,400 Canadian.
I kind of want to point out that they like put it. I don't know if the Bose thing on the back is supposed to make it look more expensive, or if it's supposed to make the Bose look more expensive. But anyways,
yeah, I had a feeling you'd catch that actually. The Bose headphones, yeah. And thank you to Fortella Watches for this picture, and another picture that I grabbed. Grand Seiko stock pictures are horrible.
Really?
And before the most expensive, we've got the Breitling Premier. With the quilted leather strap, it is 9,800 Canadian. And get ready for this, Chris.
I knew I got that wrong. I had a feeling.
Yeah. Vacheron Constantin 37 millimeter is 25,300 Canadian.
Okay. Okay. You have like a car on your wrist.
Yeah. That's a big one.
No, but I do get it because, as you said, like a lot of these things will go up in price. This is an investment, right? So
you shouldn't go down that route.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's an easy way to get into trouble. Because
sometimes, and this is, people use the word investment as a way of saying I bought something that's good quality that will last me for a long time.
That's a good point.
And that way I would use the word investment, and buy it so it goes up in value. No.
Yeah. I mean, if you have a ton of money and you're gonna get something super expensive, chances are it'll go up in price as well.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't say that. If you go with the hype brands, so Rolex, Vacheron Constantin is kind of getting their AP, which I didn't have any of here. Audemars Piguet. If you buy a Royal Oak, so it's so niche to actually get a watch that goes up in value. Generally, it'd be nice to not lose a lot of money when you try to sell your piece. So it's other than that, it's a great investment to, for your personal enjoyment.
Yeah, I think that's something that people who are new to watches don't understand, or who are not into watches, is that watches seem to hold their value better than most items you could buy. So you really, if you're careful, can, buy something and you still have value there that you could sell later or trade for something else.
Yeah.
Cool. But I guess quartz watches wouldn't fall under that. Like if you're going that route, it would probably be more of a mechanism watch.
Generally speaking, quartz does depreciate pretty heavily. It's kind of changing with Grand Seiko. There is one watch from Grand Seiko that appreciated, the SBG V245. It's a gray dialed Grand Seiko with a very aggressive, brutalistic case. It got discontinued basically, and so it's up in price. But generally speaking, the watch enthusiast community is not too fond of quartz because of the bad connotation it has with, $5 Walmart watches,
Yeah.
that are also quartz.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it's not the same thing. But it's hard to not get that connotation
Right.
with quartz.
So they can be done well just when they're not mass produced, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if there's some sort of craftsmanship, basically is where the value comes in, and where people start to really appreciate it, which is kind of what Grand Seiko does. So they're getting that cachet.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna have to change the title of this video because we never actually got to the Grand Seiko thing, but maybe we'll discuss that next week because Sam will be there next week too, and yeah, that would be a better time to discuss it. So I'll change the title. But thanks so much, Chris, for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This was really cool. This was really, really cool.
Yeah, no,
Well,
it was so good to have you.
We should have a part 2 where Chris tells stories about Sanjay from high school.
Yeah,
Sounds good. No, Sanjay was great. There's nothing too embarrassing, to be honest.
No, there's a few things. But no, it was so good to have you, Chris, and you're always welcome if you want to just hang out and chat with
Awesome.
us. Yeah, invite's always open, as
Awesome.
is with everyone here. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining us in the chat. I know we couldn't chat too much together, but yeah, I really appreciate all of you guys who joined in and watched us make Chris squirm a little bit. So yeah, I mean, Chris, do you have anything to plug that you might be working on music wise?
Not so much. I think it's just been right because I moved out here and I got a new job kind of 3 months ago now. So I'm still kind of putting everything I got into that right now. And even before that, the making music thing is more of a hobby at this point. So
Yeah.
But honestly, I think I'll be joining the chat group on next week, and maybe later on down the road, I'll update you guys on my findings through research.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, no, that would be fun to hear about. And
Yeah.
I know a lot of the guys in the chat are curious about that too. So we'll be eagerly watching your journey. And apologies in advance if you fall down this rabbit hole.
I look forward to it.
I'd be happy to give you my G-Shock though. Next time I see you, it's yours.
I'll buy it off you.
No,
I'll buy it at a high price.
But yeah, Keith, you generally don't have anything to plug, but I'm going to ask you anyway.
Nothing.
Nothing? All right. Well, guys, thanks again, and we will see you next week. Have a good day, guys, and have a good week. Oh, wait.
Watch
Soup tomorrow at 9 p.m.
What's the preview? What are the videos you're covering?
We are covering David Khalil's video on not selling watches on consignment, how it's incredibly risky to sell something on consignment. It was a really great video. So we're going to be talking about that, and we're going to be talking about the Watchbox video on some of Tim Masso's favorite pieces. He mentioned Oris, basically the Watches Tonight video.
Okay.
Oris, not Bell and Ross. Well, yeah, there was Bell and Ross, and that one brand that he really likes, Ball. So he was kind of suggesting some watches, and we were going to chat on that too. But yeah, cool. Tomorrow, Sunday night, Chris, we have a show on a different channel. Bobby Legs, he was on here earlier. We do a video, kind of like what's that show called? Talk Soup.
Talk Soup. Yeah.
Talk Soup. So we do Watch Soup, which is basically just chatting about videos on YouTube. Not too controversial or anything, but
yeah,
I know Talk Soup used to be a bit edgy. Not edgy. But yeah, guys, see you next week. Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Nice meeting you, Keith.